Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Connect Africa, to our, weekly session. Every week we take a topic, what's happening in the continent, and we discuss that topic with our Pan-Africanist analysts here. This is a Pan-African media platform. So tonight we are going to discuss what is Ethiopia. A few days ago, Ethiopia has recognized or gave like a token to Ugandan journalists who have contributed or debunked the biased report against Ethiopia in the past few years. So for that, he's one of the awardees. We have brother Dennis Sigoa. He's a journalist. Welcome, Dennis.
Thank you so much, my late Bayecha. I don't pronounce your name right. Yeah, I am Malit, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. All right. Okay. So thank you. So, as you know, or as we all know, some of us may have read what have happened. So a few days ago, I think on the 13th of November, the Ethiopian embassy in Uganda has recognized Ugandan journalists, which are, I think, in number about 10 journalists, just to give you some background, for their outstanding contribution and solidarity with Ethiopia and its people at this critical time when Addis Ababa and the country as a whole was faced with a calculated or rather an orchestrated attack in disinformation campaign by the international media, particularly on the conflict in the northern part of Ethiopia. However, prior to that, these journalists also, they were in fact at the forefront in debunking the false narrative against the Ethiopian National Project, which is the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. So my guest today, Dennis Sigoa, is one of those journalists who received that recognition from the embassy. Actually, I called the ambassador. It was my wish if she can join us, but she couldn't. And I was told that this is an independent initiative by the embassy and together with the Ethiopian community there. So, Dennis, before we talk about, how it felt, the recognition or what it meant even for you, I really want you to take us back, me and the audience, of course. When was for you, the turning point that you said, okay, something is wrong about this, disinformation against Ethiopia? When was the turning point for you and you decided to dig in it?
For hosting me. I expected to have like 2 or 3 of us on the show, but I think I'm the only one. But that's not a big deal. We can still have a conversation.
Sure. Sorry. I have to say, Lambert was supposed to join us, but for some reason he couldn't. Maybe he will join us late. Now you can go on. Sorry for this.
So, but no worries. So I've been to Ethiopia several times, like in the last couple of months. I think in November, December, and January. But then I will say that I got an opportunity from IGA training in Ethiopia, and it was about the role of the media in conflict situations. And I think it was in Adama, somewhere in Ethiopia, a town not very far away from Addis, which is about 90 or so kilometers, 70 to 80 kilometers from Addis. Yeah. So then we traveled there with my colleagues. Traveled there with my colleagues and for training. We are from a couple of places. Actually, not only from we had some colleagues from different countries. I remember Djibouti. We had South Sudan as well. We did have, of course, Kenya. Yes, Ethiopia, of course, as the host country. We were there, and it was interesting because by the time we left, by the time I left Kampala for for Ethiopia, my colleagues were so worried. They were like, "Hey, Dennis, you're really going to Ethiopia? How safe are you?" Because from what we're seeing in the press, it looks like things are getting out of hand. It looks like the country is at war, and there is a likelihood of maybe you might reach there and you're locked there. You remember the issues of COVID-19. Then, of course, nobody wants to go to a war zone, you know. But I've been to war zones before. I've been to the DRC, parts of Eastern DRC, as well as Somalia. So I thought like from what I was seeing in the media and from a foreign media and from what I was following up on social media, they really didn't tally in one way or another, because it looked like the information getting wasn't that really. We were getting it was more of a biased reporting. And as a journalist, I think it's just the right thing to do to always get your facts right, get your information right. If you don't get it right, that simply means you're either disinforming the public, misinforming the public, and you know there are consequences for that. Because if you misinform the public, it simply means, yeah, if you don't get your information right, there is a likelihood of you causing chaos or problems where problems don't exist. So we went to Adama, and it's an amazing place. I guess you've been there. I guess you've been there. It's amazing, beautiful town, a lot of horses and beautiful people. And as you were there for this, for the training on the role of media, I've been following up on issues of Ethiopia. I've been following up for quite some time, and I thought it was a very good opportunity for me to be in Ethiopia. And yeah, we flew from, of course, from Entebbe. That's our international airport. Arrived in Addis. We couldn't see anything so we didn't see anything. Like, if you're to compare on what the information that I was getting from the from BBC, Al Jazeera, CNN, it was, you know, when the plane touched the ground, I was like, anyway, actually, when you're approaching the Addis Ababa, I thought at any time a rocket can come from somewhere and probably bring this plane down, but that exactly is not what happened. And you could see from up in the sky, looking down, looks like life was normal. So we touched down, we were received well. We went and stayed in Addis Ababa that night. Then the next day, we, of course, drove to Adama. And there was nothing bad. People were okay. Life was normal. And, like, it was interesting because I remember my colleague and friend, I work for the national broadcaster. That is it's a public media house. But I have colleagues who are in the private sector, like Daniel Lutaya was with me. Then I had a colleague also, that one works for Uganda Media Center, and another lady works for Uganda Police. So we drove. Of course, we were picked. There was nothing like a vehicle to open the road for us. I wouldn't say that there was secure, like we are given extra security because we are foreigners or journalists and our lives we are at risk. So we arrived in Adama. Surprisingly, what a coincidence, because what we had gone to, the training we had gone for or the workshop, I'll say so, was about the role of the media in conflict situations. And definitely we knew we were in a country where there's a conflict situation. But then it wasn't that bad. Actually, I wouldn't say it was bad. Life was normal. So I'm one person who likes moving out like not very late in the evening, just to connect with the people, because when you visit new places, you sometimes have to get to know the people, you know, interact with the people, get to know the culture, the places, like places you can visit. So day one we were there. The second day, after the lectures or after the workshop, we went back to hotel room. I think we were staying in a Haile Gebrselassie hotel. I think the famous athlete. And as we were entering the lobby, and we're like, there are big screens, and you could see one, I think, one had CNN, another one had Al Jazeera, actually France 24, and I think, and they all had one thing in common, that Ethiopia, if I remember the headline, I think it was the rebels, TPLF rebels are advancing to Addis. They're about 25 kilometers, 30 kilometers away from Addis Ababa. And I was like, okay, 30 kilometers away from Addis Ababa, that's very close, honestly. And we've been there. I think we even hung out on that night. So like, definitely, is it true? Then I asked my friend, my colleague called Daniel, like, boss, can you look at that? He told me, but I'm also shocked. So later on, we stepped out because our now people were also surprised where we come from. We come from Uganda, and our colleagues were like, we are watching the TV, and what you're seeing, it seems you guys are in danger. Can you find a way of getting out of Ethiopia as soon as possible? And we told them, guys, it's not what I think. There's a problem here. So we went out. It was about, because we're done with our lectures at about 10. That was we were done with the workshop. Okay, that day's training. We refreshed. Then we went out. Like I told you, we were staying in Adama. So we went out. Life was normal, and honestly, we couldn't believe it. So we had to do links because the media houses that we represent were also interested because, like we always keep tabs on what is happening in the region. So UBC was interested, as well as NBS, where Daniel Utai was interested. But before doing so, we have a Twitter handle like Diesel, that's mine, at Real Silverback, and I took a photo, and I like. Actually, Dan, I remember Lutaya was the first person to whatever update his status, saying, "Hello, uh, exactly what is happening." We arrived in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, and from what we saw, is totally different from what the foreign media is reporting. Actually, we have more people, we have more troops or army men in uniform at Entebbe International Airport than Addis Ababa. Then I also took mine. I took a photo and I shared at a marketplace in Adama, Ethiopia. I'm really having a good time and whatever. And then it went viral because it looks like it was something that really opened up the minds of very many people, and it went viral. Actually, where we were seated, we even got a bit afraid because the way it was, the tweets were being, the retweet was taking place was like, it was, I would say, at an it was shocking. I think someone was just, we were waiting for, that was a very big opportunity. I think Ethiopians had tried to try and a kind of how would I say, they have tried to counter the misinformation or disinformation, but unfortunately, I think nobody believed so much on the Ethiopian media because they thought probably they're working. From what the foreign media are saying, that there is a likelihood that the local journalism, local journalists or local media houses are being gagged by the state, so they don't have a platform where they can tell the truth. That for us who are now from foreign journalists, not brought there, we're not in Ethiopia because the Ethiopian government had invited us, and we have gone there to try and get to, and we're using the media houses or the social media channels to kind of tell the story of what is happening in Ethiopia. I think it was I think the right thing, that I would say it was more of a something that was many people were waiting for. And since then, I think I've just summarized in about 10 or so minutes of exactly what put us, maybe led to the position that I am currently. But like I would say, I've always been an African. I'm an African. Yes, I've been a Pan-Africanist, and I think I love Africa so much. Yeah, and definitely, I think we as journalists, we tend to spend too much time watching foreign content, and they set the I would say they're so much focused on actually what the foreign press does a lot is that they tend to have content that suits them, but not content that suits us. You understand? Like, even if they do a research, if at all you send a journalist to the field to come and do a story, for instance, Ebola in Uganda, a situation that we're in currently, actually, the photo that you see there, that's the one that went viral. That is the one that went viral. So they wouldn't look at the positives of it. They only look for the negatives. Who has died? How many people have died and stuff like that. But they wouldn't look at the survivors. How many people have survived, and what are some of what has led to this maybe high level of survival, or what is exactly government to do to combat this. So I thought like for what we did, especially me and Lutaya, was a cause. I think is something that I have to be proud of. It's something that really I think our ambassador here was very excited about. And we didn't do it because we wanted to be famous. We just did it because I think it was a duty. It was a calling. It was just like God did his wonders, and we were in Adama, we're in Ethiopia, at the right place, at the right time, and the impact that the impact we had and our contribution to what we are seeing right now, I think can never be underestimated.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Back to you.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Really, for that, you really took us back how it went. You
Mm,
know, like a year ago, I think, was it less than a year? Yeah,
mm,
as I say, Addis Ababa was actually to be taken by TPLF, but in less than 100 kilometers, as you said, or 30 kilometers. But
yes,
whereas you
yes.
were much even further than that 100 kilometers in the city, beautiful city
Hmm.
of Adama. I was trying to make this big, but I couldn't. Let me see if I can read for my audience, for our audience. So this was the tweet that went viral, I think. On the streets of Adama, what's on the ground and what's being reported and analyzed by international media is quite different. Hashtag Adama, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Yeah, really, thank you for that. And of course, with your colleague, Daniel
The
uh,
Lutaya.
Lutaya. Uh,
Yes.
First of all, forgive me. I must have been very excited to go to this topic. Let me just briefly say our guest here, Dennis Sigoa, he's a journalist at the Ugandan Broadcasting, and also he's a Pan-Africanist. We will put on the
Yeah.
link. You can follow him on his Twitter. He will share really topics or issues from the Pan-African perspective. So speaking of Daniel Lutaya, right after that, so I asked one of the contacts from it was, I think, by Prime Media. I think three or four of you were
Yes,
interviewed
yes.
right after the IGAD
Hmm.
training on media. So I had the opportunity to interview him when he got back to Kampala. So because my next question really relates to that, so I had the opportunity to meet Daniel Lutaya. So, and also whose tweet went viral. Uh,
Viral, yes.
yeah, just like you. So it's not only him, of course, it's you, and there are other Ugandan journalists who have been, consistently fighting or debunking this disinformation, this orchestrated, attack against Ethiopia. It is the media, I mean, quote unquote international media, but we know who they are serving. And then
Yes, yeah, definitely.
the academicians, there's the government. It's all orchestrated attack against the country. So it's not only that. I mean, prior to that, I mean, you also have been together with others, trying to look at projects like the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is indeed a
Hmm.
Pan-African project. So your contribution actually as a Pan-African starts prior to that, prior to this conflict. So help me out, as an Ethiopian, of course, I'm also a Pan-Africanist at large, also as a citizen of Africa. I have followed this debunking by you and other Ugandan, mostly brothers, journalists who fought this and still fighting the biased reports. Unfortunately, we don't see much from the neighboring countries. I mean, who have the opportunity actually even to travel or to check things, to get things firsthand. We don't see that efforts, and we don't see so much also sharing that on their platform. it's really important to understand that. I also asked Daniel Lutaya, I think this, can you please tell us, what makes you, if you can also speak on behalf of other Ugandan journalists, to stand up for the truth, unconditionally. And also, if you can share with us, where does that Pan-African, I think I can say, I can go ahead and dare to say, it's a unique spirit that we see in the Ugandan journalists being a Pan-Africanist. Where does it come from? Is it from your president? Is it personal? Or is it, I know that there are 4 pillars of the country, or does it come from there? Please explain to us. It's important to understand.
Yeah. I think I don't think it comes. It doesn't come. I wouldn't say it comes from the president. I think Pan Africanism. I'll just toss it. There's always this example that it has always been given about uh, how, like, anyway, everywhere you go, you get to hear Africa is a dark continent. But you go elsewhere, you find that some economists will tell you, actually, analysts will tell you, Africa is not a dark continent. It's the next investment destination because we have almost everything. And I've traveled widely, I would think so. And I'm actually, besides being a Pan Africanist, I do lots of infrastructural pieces. So, meaning I do a lot of, I'm a special assignment reporter, so I tend to travel a lot and do stories that touch on the continent, not only Uganda, but projects that are of significant importance to social and economic well-being of not only this country, but for instance, if you talk about the oil and gas project, Uganda, that we're undergo the current oil and gas project, and vis-a-vis the climate change and stuff like that. So I've come from far, but I would say it starts with you, because there is a big challenge. Like if we all get stuck on watching foreign media, they will set the precedent. They will be we always be they will always be ahead of us. But Africa has amazing places. We have probably the best places in the whole world, but we have not got a chance to showcase what we do have, because we have been made to look like we don't have, yet we do have. Because if you've been if you talk about the countries with a lot of problems, they are all in Africa. But then Africa still has the best resources, because you go to places, personally go to places, and I look at it. I look at these places, like for instance, our neighboring country, the DRC, and you look at the resources, the mineral wealth, you look at the people, the population, and you can see it's just something is just wrong. It's not that they're actually very endowed, but there's something wrong that it doesn't need an American or a European to come through to come and help us, but we can solve these problems on our own. So that is why there's that, I think, the principle of the African Union, whereby it's African problems, so African solutions for African problems. And that's why you see, like for the case of the TPLF and the Ethiopian government, it didn't need to go to America, the way very many people had suggested, that this issue can be sorted by maybe Biden or whoever, because it's bigger than Africa. But it has been sorted by a president from across the region. We are just hoping that all this will last. And I think Ethiopia is bigger than individuals. Just like I'll say Uganda is bigger than the leaders that we have, or that we do have. So we really need to. So the Pan-Africanism spirit starts with you, and I think it's about also getting to understand how getting to sit down and access information that can be of relevance. Like for us, the press, the challenge is that most of us don't go deep to understand the problem, because we're so much addicted to hard news. But hard news is something that comes immediately and goes away. But if you take time and go through the information, there is something maybe hidden deeper that maybe someone else would never notice. But if you keep on going deeper and understanding, look at the feature stories, trying to get together, get analysts, do some interviews, you'll definitely get to know what is happening. Because the Ethiopian story, I have a colleague called Adam. Adam has really followed up so much on the issues of Ethiopia. I would have really wished to. He's actually one of their awardees, and he spends, I think, much of his time reading and getting to understand not only about Ethiopia, but about the geopolitics. Because if you look at the issue of Ethiopia, we have the GERD, of course, that has come through, that the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, that has been like a big problem. Ethiopia has invested a lot of money. They're expecting to have like 6,000 megawatts of electricity, but there are forces that don't want it to happen. But if you look at that, it looks like a project that will have a very big impact to the rest of the very many countries in Africa. If you maybe Kenya, Uganda as well, because if you look at electricity right from the Owen Falls Dam in Uganda is interconnected down to Mombasa and Kenya. So if you connect Kenya onto the grid of Ethiopia, definitely it will the connection will continue to as far as Congo, to as far as maybe South Sudan or Rwanda or Tanzania. But I think we are the others who probably, when Africa comes together, when I think when we're divided, it becomes so easy for us to be ruled. It has always been that. But now, when we are united, like now, we become a force to be reckoned with. And now that takes us to where now some of us maybe have taken up. We are now on the front line, like in war. It's a front line whereby you have to go there full throttle. You have to sit down and say, okay, it's not that we do it like sit down and plan like the way you say call yourself influencers, but you sometimes have to do it independently because we might not, we are all too busy people. So sometimes you just have to go for it and get the information, put it out there. There are those ones who will appreciate, there are those ones who will critique, but the most important thing is that you sometimes you come to realize later you've set an agenda, and this is the case that has happened with the case of the awards that we received from the Ethiopian government. I know if you talk about, it's not the Ethiopian embassy, I would say so, because the Ethiopian embassy represents the wider Ethiopian government, yeah, under President Abiy. So for us, it's an honor, and I think it's. I actually went there with my family, and I didn't know that I was invited to go for. I actually didn't know I was going to get an award because I was at office. Okay, I'd been invited, but then I told them that the gentleman who invited me, I think I'm at office, but is it possible I come with my family? Because initially, one time I talked to the ambassador and I told her I'll get some time and come over with my family. So I also wanted to surprise her in one way or another. But when I reached there, I was the one who was surprised because I was like, oh,
Beautiful.
and she was surprised.
Nice. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, and my kids were very excited when actually my daughter was there. They are twins, a boy and a girl, and she pick a phone, pick the mother's phone, and came and took a photo of me. And people were actually clap for her because they were like, this young girl is standing out. This baby is going out there to take a photo of the father. This is exciting. But I think the opportunity, the awards like I received, that cements my Pan Africanism because I have it on my profile, my status.
Yeah.
It now makes me feel proud every other day, and I don't. It's something that I'll keep on doing. Not only follow up on what is happening in Ethiopia, but there are also so many issues happening around
Yeah.
within this region, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sure you've been following up on the development in across in the DRC. So
Yeah.
I think that's how, because all countries that for if like countries that are very rich in Africa tend to have problems. So you ask yourself why. And rich and wealth is not only about resources. Even the people, actually, the biggest wealth of a nation are its people. So if the people biggest wealth of a country is its people, then you find it becomes very disheartening, or it's really hurting for some foreign forces to come and try and divide the people. Like you're in Ethiopia and you realize Ethiopia has conquered them. It's one of those big countries in Africa, one popular. It was never colonized, so it's a very important country in the entire African continent. But I think for a long time it is facing all these challenges because there are those ones who feel like maybe if we disorganize Ethiopia in one or another, we'll have disintegrated the whole of Africa because just know it is AU is headquartered in Addis Ababa, and
Yeah.
AU is a very important arm of I would say regional or continental leadership.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
agree. Yeah, so back to me. Yeah, really, thank you. Thank you very much for bringing that up, because it definitely leads to my next question, which actually you answered. I was going to come back to the
Okay.
certificate, to the award. So I was going to ask, how did you feel? You certainly told us that you were surprised. Very good. So, how do you think, you also have touched upon it, but still, if you have something to add, how do you think, this kind of act or gesture or token will impact journalists? Because usually, even African media, most of African, I can say really, most of African media platforms do not dare, really do not take the time, do not even make the initiative, the effort to look at, issues that are
Mm,
happening in Africa from the African perspective. I mean, from the Pan African perspective, because most of the problems are really similar, and we should fight it as an African, not really as an Ethiopian or Ugandan or Nigerian. We should fight it together,
definitely.
because it's that's why Ethiopia has been said we are fighting an African war. So
African War. Yeah.
exactly. Now you were doing, using your own social media and all others, Lambert, many people know him from his Twitter as Futurical, and Kungu, and Adam, and then Daniel Lutaya were doing this. I'm not sure how many of you were doing this from the National Broadcasting Corporation, but certainly we see on your social media you have been doing this. Now, to recognize that, whether it's a government or an organization, an African organization, to recognize that, to award that effort, how do you think will impact the journalists?
So I think it's a very important award. I would say so, to Dennis as an individual journalist, and as well as the broadcast house where I work. I told you, it's a public broadcaster, and quite often, issues of when you with some of us, when you go deep into Africa and other countries issues, some people think like maybe you're chewing so much more. You're actually biting more than what you're going to maybe swallow, something, chewing more than you can swallow. But I would think it sets it puts me on a totally different level, because first and foremost, I'm supposed to now improve my CV, because it goes my resume, I'll say so. It has to be added there as I'm an award winner, and we're not very many. I think there are very few journalists who have received this kind of regional or international recognition for the small jobs, for the small token. I would say it's also just a small token of. I would say, will I say small token? What we'll say is it's a small gesture, like I would say ours was more of a gesture, because we just used our platform to tell people this is exactly what is happening in Ethiopia. Of course, there are those ones who are telling us, you're claiming that you went to Ethiopia for a training, but there's a possibility that maybe even it's actually Ethiopian government that funded you to go there. They had an interest, because yeah, there are those ones who say that there's a likelihood you're just there as an agent of the government, but no, you didn't do it because you're a Pan-Africanist or whatever. But we knew what we did. And
Mhm.
of course, like for the post from Lutaya was a bit controversial. Maybe mine was a bit fair. Yeah, mine was a bit fair for Lutaya to compare Uganda and actually Entebbe International Airport and Addis. People were like, no, no. You think why are you not a patriot? Because you're a Ugandan. You should be saying things that are positive about your country, not trying to. But whatever he said was coming from deep from his heart, and I don't think until today, I think he stands for it. Like last time we met at the embassy, he still, yeah, he was excited. So for us, I think it is after getting this award, like I told you earlier on, I got an award. I think I'll keep on doing what I do best. I'll keep on trying to keep on pushing. Now that we no longer now, it's not about Ethiopia, because
Yeah.
for now we need to keep the public posted on what exactly is happening in Ethiopia and the region at large, or the continent at large, because as our continent has a lot of problems, I would say so. And these problems can only be addressed by us. We can play a critical role in addressing these problems, and using so media, not only the social media but mainstream media, has a lot of impact. That's why actually the developed world has really invested a lot of money in media, because like here in Uganda, I don't know if it's the same globally. The media is the fourth arm of the state, meaning the media is an integral part in our daily lives. So what goes there, you can actually use the media to set an agenda, And now that we even have the social media, we have the Twitters of this world, we have the Instagram, Snapchat, and the rest. If messages can be sent there that are very impactful. So for those ones who know how to utilize this message, they have used it to their advantage. But unfortunately, for our continent, we're still very disintegrated. We don't work as a team. And definitely, if you don't work as a team, that's why we're getting a lot of problems, because you cannot detect any faults anywhere. And sometimes it's easier when you can tackle a problem at its infancy. You don't let it mature, then you try and tackle it, because it means you might have to invest a lot of your time, a lot of resources, a lot of shuttle diplomacy to have the issue sorted, which is very, very difficult. But getting to the award for us, like me personally, I'll still do my work. But I also think there's a suggestion. I think you watched one of my stories that I did the other day, a story about me that was voiced and done by my colleague, about there are two Americans. Actually, there were two Americans who were well wishers. I met them at Samara. I think Samara, I think in the Amhara, and if I'm not wrong, in Afar. Sorry, in Afar. Yeah. So we're there, and they had all traveled. They traveled all the way from. I think the gentleman was coming from Washington, the lady, and they're in Ethiopia as well wishers, as Americans who thought there was something wrong. Even them, they were like, I think the information that we're getting is not right. So they had come to Ethiopia for solidarity, to show solidarity with the Ethiopian people. And I'm so sure, I'm certain where they are today, they are very excited, because we moved with them, we had fun. You can see we went to so many places, like as far as Kombucha. Of course, there's some places that had been destroyed during the war, but generally it wasn't. It wasn't okay. The destruction was big, but what they wanted to, what they actually said, they said they're willing to do as much as possible, whatever they could do, to ensure that Ethiopia does not reach a state where it will be called a failed state, because it looked like so many other, or let me say, Western powers were interested in only having the negatives coming out of that country, out of Ethiopia. And of course, the solidarity not only of the Ethiopians, and also some of us, the media in Africa, some of us as journalists, and also well-wishers from all over the world, really it actually cushioned the country from the disaster that was in the waiting. So I'm very excited. My colleagues are very excited. And Ethiopia is one country that I'll always want to go anytime, even if someone tells me, Dennis, there's something that I need to do in Ethiopia tomorrow, I'll gladly step out of my house and say, because I loved the place. I loved it when there was a report about war. I know when there was a report, actually the media report about a disaster in the waiting, I still like the place. I like the people. I met so many friends. And I feel like my role was important. I played a very important role. And we still need to do a lot, me and you, because besides about us just talking, we really have to find a way of walking the talk. And walking the talk is about getting permanent solutions. How do we encourage our own colleagues to step out there and do what we think is right, and not just be an agent of some people with vested interests? We should have our own interests. Like I remember I told you about the gentleman whom interviewed, and he said for Africa, it has reached a point where we also need to have our own international news channels, because where the developed world can also watch our work. Because let's show them that we also have innovations here. We have the youth who are doing amazing stuff. We have places that have been known for being at war, but you have good things come out of that. We have we're not only dying of diseases, but we do have our colleagues whatever who are into engineering, who are flying planes, like Ethiopian Airlines. I remember one time I saw, I think, a plane which was manned by all ladies. Those are achievements that we don't do that. We don't showcase that. We have to wait for the developed world to come and showcase it for us. But if you have our own medias, if you form a big team, a big force, I think we can cause change and a positive change. And I think we can become a force that can be recognized as well. And we'll have a very positive impact, as far as our continent's aspirations are concerned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back to you.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Thank you, my brother. You really said it very well. Just quickly, since you raised that you have been in Samara, in Afar, in Amhara, I was told by the ambassadors that actually you reached
even Lalibela.
Lalibela right after they left. What was your impression?
Wow. Now, I will tell you, I'm not going to, I wouldn't say I'm going to do an advert or a promo for the country, yeah? But I'm also a tour and travel journalist. I think in 2019 and 18, I was the best in the country in Uganda. So that's a bit of what you didn't know about me. Okay. But you can Google, you find about my. I'm really interested in tourism and travel. So I will say I've been all over the national parks in Uganda. Besides the national parks, I profile almost all the tourism attractions in this country. So I went to Lalibela, and at Lalibela, I think Lalibela is a unique place. I don't know how to summarize it. I think it's an amazing place. You just need to reach there. Unlike the coast, the beaches, maybe in Mombasa or in Dar es Salaam or down in whatever in South Africa, I think for the case of Lalibela, it takes you back probably 1,000 or more years into the cradle of humanity. The religion. Where did it start from? They're amazing places, and I think the religious sites, the history of the Orthodox, they call them the whatever maybe we call them the shrines, but they're not the shrines. But they're amazing places. I think when I came back, I just came back with a booklet. I think it was produced, I think, for tourists, for people who visit. I came over and I showed my wife, I showed my family, and I told them I'll definitely, God willing, and resources. If I have the resources, I would make sure I take all of them to go and see this, because not during the Orthodox Christmas, because it was crazy. There are hundreds and thousands of people, despite the fact that the airport had been attacked. But you will see hundreds of people landing to just come and see this to go back down the memory lane and to see where maybe to appreciate the religion. When you're in Lalibela, there are things, when some people, they will tell you, I really interact with a very diverse people, with diverse-minded people. And I'll tell them, there are those ones who tell you there's no religion. Actually, there's no Jesus, there's no God, there's no whatever. When you die, that's your end. But when you go to a place like Lalibela, I think you might be convinced otherwise, because you ask yourself, did these human beings who did this, what exactly were they thinking about? And how much time did they spend to do this? And what was inspiring them? And where are they? And today, where they are, of course, man, we are born, we live, we end up dying. Power's just gone off. Now I'm in darkness. Hello. Well, hello. Now maybe it's getting dark. Let me just get from me some light, please, on the other side. I think as we're getting to the tail end, maybe on the other side. Okay.
Okay, I hear you anyway. I hear you.
So now, let me first of all tell you what had happened recently, why we're experiencing blackouts. It's like in the recent days, I think we have been having a lot of vandalism of electricity infrastructure. So that's what is causing load shedding. You can imagine people stepping out there, just to destroy the power infrastructure. But then getting back to what we were talking about, I think Lalibela is an amazing place. And for especially for those who do what is it, religious tourism. We do have
Mhm. Like
Namugongo
pilgrimage.
in Uganda.
Mm.
You've been to Kampala before?
No, unfortunately, I'm waiting for my invitation.
When you come, I'll take you to Namgongo and some other places. But
Thank you.
if you get, for example, you go to Lalibela, I think it's a place. I actually, even you know very well, I can't manage to describe Lalibela. You know it because it's just an amazing place. You know,
Yeah.
you know, and amazing people. I was hosted. I ate a lot of injera. Actually, the times the 3 days I was in Lalibela, I never spent a single cent. I will say so. But
Yeah.
people were willing to host me.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Really,
the
me and
love.
my yeah, my camera person and I told them whenever I get an opportunity, I'll definitely come back. And hopefully, who knows? It's just a few weeks to another Orthodox Christmas. I might be going to
Exactly.
Lalibela.
Yeah, we will
Yeah.
speak. There are some projects which I'm not gonna say now on live, but we definitely,
Yes.
I'm glad that I hear your interest. But doesn't that also tell
And
you,
I'm
okay,
so I'm so much interested because I yeah.
yeah, go on.
Hello.
Okay, you hear me?
So I'm saying I'm so much interested. Yes, yes, I can hear you because I think I'll need, as a tour and travel journalist, as someone who really thinks we don't get, we are watching other people's work. I think for the likes of Lalibela, like Lalibela has the capacity to maybe to host 1 million people per
Yeah,
annum, because we go we have so many people who go to Israel to see where because of Jesus Christ, but we do
indeed.
have almost the same in where we come from. We're not very far. Where I can actually drive from Uganda to that place. It's quite a distance, but it's not possible. There are guys who have crossed right from Johannesburg to up to the Mediterranean Sea on motorbikes. So how it cannot be that difficult to do about 10,000 kilometers to and fro or less. It can't even be 10,000 kilometers from where I am. But I think those are the places that we need to showcase them. We need to. It was sad that when we were there, the part of the airport it had been attacked. You'll see the infrastructure had been destroyed. But now that there is a new phase, there is a peace agreement. I'm hoping things will go back to normal, and we shall fly and land and enjoy our time in Lalibela without any fear.
Yeah.
Like let's just have fun and do the profile and sell Ethiopia to the world. You know?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. No, not
Yeah.
because it is Ethiopia, but also it informs us that how much
Yes.
as a country or as a continent that we are not doing really on our
Yeah.
tourism. There was a friend of
Mhm.
mine, he's Nigerian and he really works purposely how do you say, marriage between African countries, like a Nigerian with Liberia, Ghanaian with Ethiopian. He is definitely that's what he's promoting. And so
Yes.
he had the opportunity. It was like, I don't know, 10 years or 12 years ago. He came Ethiopia and he traveled and he said, why you didn't tell me about this? I mean, why
About
do we go?
this. Yeah.
Why do we? He exactly said the same thing you said. Why do we go? Why Africans are traveling from Lagos to Ethiopia and then to go to
Yes. Yeah.
Jerusalem, while we
Yes.
can have actually a Christian pilgrimage to Ethiopia? By the way,
To
historically,
Ethiopia.
the country is not only rich, for this kind of for Christianity, but also in terms of
Mm.
Islam, there are rich places which are really mentioned, which you can get the stories that are mentioned also in the Quran. So
Yes.
there are really lots of places to see. These are the
Mm.
things, once the conflict is over, these are the things, as you said, to walk the
Yeah.
talk, to talk about and organize something and do something. One time it could be Lalibela, the other time it could be Ngoma, the next time it could
That is
be
very true.
Sudan. Yeah, this is
Yes. Yes.
actions. So I know that there's no light. I have one last question. I think it's okay.
All right.
Yeah,
Mm,
it's okay. We have discussed. We have covered so much of it. Thank you
that's
very
very
much,
true.
Dennis, for your time. Really, thank you very much. And yeah,
Thank you. I also appreciate for you hosting me. I think yeah, yeah, sure. It was almost I had you on phone. It was like, hey, is this guy going to make it? Fortunately the jam reduced and I had to move a bit fast because I had to
yeah.
come in, settle in, and also have a conversation with you because I don't like letting people down, just like I don't want to be let down.
Yeah, but there's always thank you very much for that. But I understand,
Mm,
inviting my African sisters or brothers from the continent. I'm kind of it's not new for me. Like sometimes it's power, sometimes it's jump, sometimes it's
yeah,
connection. The connection is not good enough. So I always
yeah,
say to my audience, this should not stop us. We still
yes,
we should make it work
mm,
for us. Yeah, so no problem for that, but thank you
mm,
for mentioning it. So this is the first
yeah,
time, but definitely not the last time. So next time,
yeah.
maybe with some kind of project with kind of Eastern African thing, what we can
Yes,
do,
yes, yes,
definitely then, so we can talk the talk. I wouldn't forget that now. I will not forget
yeah,
that.
sure. I'm
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So thank you, Dennis. All right then. So have a good evening. Bye
Yeah,
bye.
yeah, you too. Bye bye.
Bye
Thank you so much.
bye.
Great.